Welcome to Weekly Web Development News episode number 3. My name is Zoran Jambor, and here we will look at the State of CSS 2022 survey, reasons why you might not be excited about the new CSS features, color fonts, and more. Let's dive in. First up, we have State of CSS 2022. This is the probably most relevant survey in the industry regarding CSS, regarding trends around CSS. This year, the amazing Lea Vero took the lead on selecting questions with a special focus on highlighting the upcoming CSS features. So make sure to participate and fill out the survey because we want to have the best, the most accurate picture that we can get from a survey like this about the current state of CSS, about where we are, where we're going, what the current challenges with the CSS are. And once the survey results are out somewhere in November, I will probably dig into it and try to highlight some of the most interesting findings. Next, we have an article by Sylvester Bistrovich about not being excited about new CSS features. And this is a very interesting take on CSS, where on one hand we have a lot of new features that have become available in CSS in 2022, and on the other hand, there are some challenges around those features. And the challenges Sylvester highlights are mainly related to browser support and adoption of new features. And even though our browsers are mostly evergreen, they're updated on a regular basis every few weeks, we still have Safari, and I'm mainly thinking about iOS Safari, which is still heavily connected to OS. So if some users are stuck on an older version of iOS, they may not be able to get the new features available in the new Safari version. And my take on this is that when it comes to new, maybe even experimental features that are not supported in the majority of the browsers, then we should probably look at those features as a way to add something more to our websites. Maybe use those features in terms of progressive enhancement, and that way users that are on older versions of browsers would still get some kind of a basic experience, and the users on, well, new modern browsers with the old features available would get probably something a little bit extra. The second point about the adoption of new features, because, well, let's face it, the web is moving at a really fast speed, so it's pretty much very difficult to keep up with everything that's happening. Some of those new technologies are very complex, very difficult to understand, very difficult to process because we're used to the old way of thinking, like organizing layouts with floats. It's very difficult to switch to the grid mindset or Flexbox mindset. I still hear people who say that they don't really understand or get grid. It still hasn't clicked with them. And grid is technology that's been in our browsers for quite a while now, and it's supported in pretty much all modern browsers, and yet still the challenges with learning that new technology, understanding it, and incorporating it into your workflow can be pretty much very, very difficult to overcome. And there's obviously not an easy solution to this other than that incorporate new techniques into your workflow as much as you can. If you can do it in your work, great. If you can spare some free time to learn something new, to understand something new, and then to be able to use that as a leverage to get maybe a raise, maybe a different position, or to just improve the quality of your style sheets, then that's always a good choice. But again, the problems are there, they're real, everybody is facing them, so don't feel overwhelmed. You don't have to learn every new technology, every new CSS property that comes along. As you're building stuff, when you come to a challenge, if you find a new technology that could be a good solution for that, then dig into it if you can, learn it and use it. In any case, this is a really interesting take on the challenges we're facing with CSS today, with the number of new features that are becoming available, number of new techniques that we need to learn, understand, and adopt to be able to stay on top of things. Next up, we have a tweet by Stefan Judis, and this tweet is related to Web Almanac's 2022 release, which was created by Rachel Andrew, and Stefan dove into it and highlighted some of the very interesting findings that we stumbled upon. And you're gonna see in this thread right here that there's quite a lot of very, very fascinating things here. Like the biggest style sheet that was shipped is 62 megabytes. Like, I am completely stunned by this. How is it even possible to have so much CSS on a website, and what does it do and how did we get there? Another good one here is that the web page actually loads 2,000 and something style sheets. That is absolutely insane. I don't know how do you get to a state where a web page, regardless of what it does, loads so many style sheets, so many different resources. And this can actually serve as a really good reminder that we should care about the work we do, that we should do our best to improve performance, improve accessibility, because those things really matter, especially they matter to end users, because if you don't provide a good experience, if you don't provide performant website, users will not be coming back, and well, that's not what you want for your website, for your app, for whatever it is you're doing. Dig into this thread yourself and dig into the Web Almanac, because some of the things available there are really interesting and really fascinating. Next, we have an article by Sarah Daly on first batch of color fonts arriving to Google Fonts. And this is related to Color V1 format of fonts that are already supported in modern browsers, which means that you can actually not only use colored fonts, you can actually customize those colors using the font palette and font palette values. And I find those color fonts really fascinating, and the way to tweak them is maybe not as straightforward as I thought. So I will probably create a video on how color fonts work and how to adjust colors of those color fonts. So make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss that particular video. In any case, there's a few fonts available on Google Fonts, so check them out. Some of those are really interesting, really nice, and those color fonts I think actually present the next step in web typography, or they expand on what can we actually do with typography on the web. And lastly, I want to highlight an ongoing project by Lynn Fisher, a single div art. And Lynn has actually been working on this project for multiple years, and every October she actually does something called Divtober. Every day in October she creates a new illustration that has only a single div, and that's really fascinating to see how she's able to create such an amazing illustrations while using just a single div and a little bit of CSS. I'm not going to highlight any one of those in particular, they're all pretty much amazing, so make sure to check her profile on CodePen and asinglediv.com, because that is again a wonderful testament to what is possible using the CSS these days. Absolutely stunning and impressive work by Lynn Fisher. Thank you so much for your attention. My name is Zoran Jambor. I will see and hear you in the next video.